Hello Joe, got your carburetors here, checking the serial numbers. This one ends in 298, this one ends in 297, if we can see that down there, yeah, 297, okay. Excuse the cinema verite a little bit here. We're going to go over quite a bit before we even run these things. Alright, mounting the carburetors. Be sure to, I'll give you the instructions, but be sure to use the spacer tubes and the wave washers that should have been there when you took these things off when you're mounting the carburetors. One of the best tools you can use for mounting is a set of these 1/4 inch drive. You don't need anything stronger than 1/4 inch drive because the carburetors don't need to be that tight. They have a limit stop which is an 8mm wave washer, and all you have to do is snug them down. Now then, before you tighten them down, get the carburetors mounted but to where they're slightly loose. Take your air cleaner log, install your air cleaner log. Let's get back a little bit further here. Install your air cleaner log, then do the final snugging to where the carburetors won't move. Pull the air cleaner log off and get underneath there. Because otherwise you're going to end up with the carburetors attached and set in place, and that air cleaner log is not going to go on because there's a fair amount of adjustment or slop up and down and left to right for the carburetors. Now let's go over some individual aspects here. Fuel, when you're attaching the carburetors, let me get this thing to focus. Oh, okay, there we go. Now then, when you are attaching your fuel lines, be sure to use 2 wrenches. One to secure the fitting in the float bolt cover, and the other one to work the swivel. Otherwise, you take the chance of ripping the threads out of the float bolt cover. This is adjustment for the choke mechanism, and what this does is moves these levers in and out so that you can get your choke cable to align, and that's done with the set screws and jam nuts, so you get to adjust those. Remember to check your choke cable before you attach it. Just simply move the choke cable in from the dash, and if it needs to be lubed, use one of those motorcycle cable lubers. And then of course what you're going to do now is you're going to stick this cable straight down there, and the cable wants to pull straight up while the levers are trying to make an arc coming out. So it's a very bad system, and it makes for a difficult pull on the dash. So you need to make sure everything's lubed up properly. Now your carburetors are fully tuned, and I'll show you that. This is your idle mixture screw, and this is the only one you need to pay attention to on the first barrel. Second barrel, blanked off. Do not bother with those. They have no purpose. They're just blanked off. You've got the little. Most people don't understand this guy right down here. This little pin or screw is a follower, and what it does is when the carburetors are fully open, both barrels are fully open, that little threaded screw hits that pin down there and artificially closes the second barrel. Now then, these are adjusted, but if you should ever have to adjust them, you want to make sure that you don't adjust them so tightly that this screw starts to artificially open your first barrel and adjust your idle. So what you want is for these to just barely touch the pin, and as I say, they are already adjusted for you. This is the idle jet, called a G55, because that's the size. It's 0.55 millimeter orifice, which means it is really tiny. And if you ever lose idle, it's because of this jet right here. And all you have to do is pull it out or the other one out and clean them out, and maybe spray some B12 in there. So fuel cleanliness is critical. I recommend you always put an extra inline fuel filter on these cars. Since the orifice is so teeny, it takes like a single wire bristle to clean out the hole. And a lot of times you'll never even see what was in there, but it is clogged up. The second barrel does not do anything. The second barrel idle jet doesn't do anything. It just sits there and plugs a hole. So if for some reason you ever needed to swap jets around, you can do that, because these jets are all the same. They're interchangeable, and you're welcome to swap them around. If, for instance, you're on the road or something, and the idle goes away, and usually what happens is you're on the highway, coming off the highway, and you come to a stop sign, and the car dies, and that's because you've pulled up a bunch of debris out of the tank of the gas tank, and run it through the carburetors, and they don't like that. Anyway, it's a real easy fix, and that is the only thing that controls the idle right there. Let's see, we're very proud of, we've got all CAD plating here, we've got factory gaskets everywhere. Okay, so now we are ready to start some carburetors. And obviously cold engine, so you're going to actual cold start. Plug one. And I'll show you how to tune them. Oh yeah, in terms of tuning, one of the best tools you can get is this synchrometer. And the one you want is the BK1 to 35 kilograms per hour. That unit right out of the box fits these carburetors perfectly. No need for adapters. And you can't tune the carburetor successfully until you get them warmed up, so we're going to do that. Be sure to use the priming lever on the fuel pump to make sure you got fuel in the carburetors. I know we do, because we've obviously been testing. So I'll give it a squirt here. Switch on. Choke. Yep. Excuse me. Now that's the way it should start with a cold engine. Now you notice. Notice when I move the choke, I'm actually moving the throttle. So there's a cam in here that does that for you. But that you're actually moving the throttle when you choke it. Not bad for cold. Now we're going to get it warmed up. Yep. waiting for our thermostat to open up. There we go, just opened up. Alright, now we can tune some carburetors, or check tune. Now one of the things I use that helps a whole bunch is an analog analyzer. Okay, so here's our RPM scale right here, and it says we're doing about 5, 6, 700. Yeah, about 700. And I use that for tuning purposes. And so what I do is I will adjust the idle mixture screw. Well, let's see. All right, first of all, in order to tune these things, you need to have the linkage undone. They need to have the carburetors separate from each other. So you'll undo that, you'll snap off the linkage so that each carburetor is running independently, because you want to adjust the linkage later on to match, so it just snaps in place and nothing changes. Then what you're going to do is you're going to check your airflow. The second barrel of each carburetor should be 0 airflow, or actually the factory was 2, and what we want is anything below 2. So there's 1.5. 1.5, and these are still a little tight, so if I push on them, it'll tighten them up a little bit when the machine works. See, there's the difference right there. So they'll work in as the car is driven. Now then, what you want to do is make sure you got uniform airflow through the first barrel, and I've already set these. Obviously, there's 5, and there's a little bit more above 5. So we will simply come in here and back this off a smidge. Well, actually, I'm going to increase this one because the idle's a little low. So let's see if we get a little bit more right there. Yeah, a little bit more above 5. Okay. And then what you're going to do is, what I do is I will use the scale here to adjust the idle mixture. I'm going to adjust the idle mixture screw using the RPM. So what I'm going to do is screw the mixture screw in and out until I get the best idle speed. So I'm screwing it in. You can see the idle starting to degrade. And screw it back out. Screwdriver keeps slipping off. So we're picking up RPM. Picking up a little bit more. Alright. You can pick up some more. A little bit more. And that's just from adjusting the idle mixture screw. That's the only thing I'm doing right now. And we can test our work. Let's put this on the high scale for RPM. That's on the high scale, alright. And all I was doing was adjusting this guy right here. So let's do the other one while we're here. Let's go back on the height, on the low scale, so that we're running about 6 or 7. Let's see, 725, 750, give or take. reason I use an analog is because if you use a digital, it just bounces all over the place. It's ridiculous. You can see we're losing RPM, so I'm going to screw the screw back out. Picking up RPM. You get a little bit more RPM, but I also can hear the air being drawn in through the throat. It's a little too much, so we're going to back it off just a smidge. And we'll blip the throttle, see what we got. Alright. Those are some fabulous carburetors, tuned and ready to install. Nice response. Can't thank you enough for letting me handle these for you. I thank you for your patience. And if you have any questions, I'm a phone call away. Thanks, Joe.